who's Hither Mann and what's Hither up to these days?
Hi, Sunil. So Hither is, well, my name is Hither, and I would define myself as a crazily ambitious entrepreneur that never wants to stop. So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but this is what my story has been like so far. So I've been in business since 2004, started off in actually a career, university career, and then I pivoted very quickly into property. So I built my first wave of wealth through property, and I absolutely thought that was it. I'm done, like this is my life. But in 2008, I survived very well the crash because I bought my property very cheap and I had positive cash flow. So I did all the right things and I didn't realize how much it would pay off, but it did. But what I didn't see is that I couldn't actually continue doing much for 8 months. I was in that very soul searching point of my life and I thought, what's next? And one thing I was lacking was time. I didn't have enough time. I had money, but no time. So I fell into the world of financial trading. And long story short, I found a mentor. I did everything wrong, tried to learn myself, which never works. And I'm a big believer in spend money on a mentor because it will save you so much money in bad mistakes. So I found a trader in London. I paid him a lot of money. Effectively, I paid him as a client. So I had to give him money to trade, so that's the only reason they talk to you. And I ended up being like this shadow to him and just watching and learning. And it took me 3 years to get very good, but I started making money very quickly in that 3-year period. So financial trading and hedge funds and that world opened up to me, made lots of money there, becoming part of hedge funds and just introducing money, etc. And education came later. It was effectively, I was always a very spiritually aligned individual, but I also had one complaint to this point, which was I never saw a female I could look up to. I was very conflicted in my inner game. I was making lots of money. I was living in a man's world because I only worked in male-dominated environments. And yet I was still questioning whether I was doing the right thing. And the source of it came from, there are no females doing this. And I don't know if I like what I was seeing in the male world, and I didn't have anyone to relate to. So then I thought, well, how do I change that? Let's become that person. Let's try and help other females see a super independent financial person working in a male-dominated industry and is okay with it, and it's female and it ticks so many boxes in your subconscious. So I loved that journey, and that took me that started in 2013. I became a public speaker, jumped on stages, got training, etc., to actually speak, and I've never looked back. So now I'm at a point where female empowerment, I coach a lot of males, don't get me wrong. I'm a peak performance coach to bankers, Credit Suisse, ultra high net worth individuals. I find working with men very comfortable, very easy. Women also come to me now a lot more because of the way I've positioned myself as a female in the financial world. But now that's one of my legacies, to try and close the pay gap between men and women, because women and money doesn't always work. Like, their relationship is quite flawed at times. And yeah, in business, I'm always a business person. So I'm buying companies, taking them public, that world will never stop. So I love what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm just on a mission as well to empower females as well as men.
Excellent. And yeah, your story when you said yes to the interview was something that I started talking to my two girls who were 9 and 14 and saying, look, this shining example about, how you can be really, really great as a female and really kind of, change the world, which is essentially my message for them. Hopefully it resonates and they do that in whatever capacity they do. The first couple of questions are questions that I ask every single interviewee on my podcast series. The first one is, what is your definition of intuition? What do you specifically think it is?
I love that question. I go with that gut feeling and that inner voice that really, where you feel uncomfortable and you sometimes, so it's so easy to fall into herd mentality and you see everyone's doing that. Oh, I should do that too. Okay. They're doing this for money. Like, something as simple as, okay, I should just follow what my parents say, university career, and do that. And then you feel depressed, you feel anxious, you just think, why am I feeling a void? Why is there something missing? Now that's a little telltale sign from your intuition that is saying, hey, you're moving forward, but it's not aligned with who you are as a spiritual person. So my definition of intuition is really channeling from your internal voices, figuring out what is telling you, where do you feel happiest inside? And that's when everything, where you're moving, who you're becoming, and how you feel is all in the same plane, then you know you're going the right direction. And I encourage people to really not stop until that's all aligned.
Now you mentioned the voices and your gut as well. So we all have intuitive signals, and there's sort of an inventory of positive signals and an inventory of negative signals. They're very individual to each one of us because our experiences are very unique. When you're trusting your intuition, how does it feel in the moment?
I get anxious. I get anxiety. Like, for example, even a simple situation. I'm sitting in a Clubhouse room and there's 20 moderators and they're all talking about some, they're just pushing their selves, and I don't feel like the conversation is really fun, or I don't feel like the experience. When I feel this experience is, I feel forced. I don't want to do this. Like, that's as simple as it gets. Like, your gut feeling will just you tighten up somewhere. And for me, I get an anxiety feeling straight away. I'm just unhappy. So I'm very in tune with my inner emotions. And I'm unhappy. And I will always ask myself, why? I'm a why person. So I'll be like, why do you feel unhappy? And sometimes, if we're not careful, it's our ego stopping us growing. So you've got to get rid of your ego. Your real intuition, and when you guide yourself with your intuition, you cannot be blocked by your ego. Like, I'm a very spiritually aware person, and I feel like that's become my only reason I've moved in the right direction, because otherwise your ego will tell you, no, this is what is needed. If you want to be a powerful person, you need to, do all the things you hate and be a person you don't like, because that's the only way. And that is just an ego. That's actually a very weak voice. So me becomes anxious, I become unhappy, I ask myself why. It's never chasing the stuff. Like, I don't care about fame or following or whatever. I think it's important if you leverage it right, but just chasing that becomes a slippery road down to, you're selling your soul just for success. And I'm very in tune with that. And
it's important you don't use that as what I call it. It should be a laggard indicator. It should be one that you don't hang your hat on. You can reach there by taking the steps to get there, but it's not an intrinsic motivation. It has to be coming from within.
Yeah.
What about when you ignore your intuition? What happens? These signals start really subtle in nature, and as you ignore them, they get louder and they change until it's tapping on your shoulder saying, hello, Hither, I'm telling you, you need to reset. What are those signals for you when you're ignoring your intuition?
Okay, so if you leave, so another scenario that's a good test is when you've had a meeting. Let's say I had a meeting with Sunil right now in person, and if I left this at the end of the hour and I felt a real drain in my energy, I felt sad, I felt, oh, what a waste of time, I know for a start I wouldn't, because I wouldn't be here otherwise, just so you know.
Right.
But if I did, for example, if I knew I was just speaking to you because I just need the money, I need to get paid, I need to, if we were talking about a deal in business, it happens very often in business, people do things just for money. When you ignore that intuition and you're just being guided by external forces, you leave, you feel empty, you feel very low energy, you feel depleted, and the anxiety will kick in even more. It will kick in to a point where depression really starts. And that happened to me when I was in my early 20s a lot. And I've always used that initial anxiety as like, oh, I'm doing something I shouldn't. And I pull back and realize, right, this is what I should be doing instead.
Okay, excellent. And in your formative years, you had your parents fight about money. And when you were 9, there was an intuitive moment there that said that you wanted to be financially free. What was that intuitive moment? Was there a specific argument, and why was it so important for you to be financially free? Because we talk about extrinsic motivation, but intrinsically, what was it for you that wanted you to be financially free?
So I can remember as far as the age of 3, or definitely.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I can remember, our emotional conditioning and our neuroscience is programmed to have memories based on high emotion moments. So I can remember memories from 3 years old, but I can definitely remember at 6 being very intuitive, very aware of people's emotions. And I was aware of a lot of sadness around me because I didn't have any females. All the women in the household, I saw a lot of extended females, family and females, wives. They were all kept women, or they weren't allowed to have a career, or they weren't allowed to earn money. They were just designed to have children, and that was it. And as a result, all of them were very unhappy. The men in that family also were very aggressive, very alpha, very old-fashioned. So it was a standard case of, unhappy female trapped in a marriage she doesn't really like. And as a weird 6-year-old, I remember just being, walking into a room and could feel the tension, could feel the energy really low, and I could sense the unhappiness, even though they were trying to smile. So I guess that was my simple explanation, because my dad made it very clear that money was, he constantly used the phrase cash is king, and only if you've got cash, so he actually helped that journey a lot. He was sometimes a negative influence, but sometimes a very positive, in the sense that it made me very clear on, this is what I need to be free. He made two things very clear: education and money. And I thought the two were linked, as in formal education, but it came from different type of education, like the actual business, real world education. So I knew I had to be wealthy, because I only saw the people who had power had money, and I wanted to have that power to be free.
Wow. Now, you spent 17 years doing martial arts when you were younger. How did that kind of shape your intuitive abilities?
Oh my God, that was a game changer. I mean, I think I would have started earlier, but my parents were very strict,
Okay.
I couldn't even have friends at the house. I had my siblings. I was very sheltered. But so as soon as I got to an age where I had a little bit of independence, the first thing I did was martial arts and the gym. And martial arts, again, Chinese philosophy. I did the Chinese Shaolin Kung Fu. I've done the Filipino Eskrima. I've done a lot of I've done the Western boxing. But one thing I loved about the Chinese martial arts is the whole philosophy behind it. It's almost like a religion, So I've studied theology. I've always been obsessed with spirituality, religion, and because I grew up in a religious household, I chose to take a spiritual angle rather than religious. I could see very quickly past the human ego. So I knew that many people here think they're talking the right thing. The religion, the book is good. Like the doctrine, the whole doctrination of the religion was great, but the people were the flawed individuals in this whole section. They were the ones letting down the religion. So when I took on martial arts, it was a way of, it's Taoism. It's effectively that religion you're following. And we had to say mantras as you enter and mantras as you exit. And everything in Shaolin martial arts makes every move, knife action to every kind of physical attack you make is symbolic. And it's always attack and defend, and effectively you're actually attacking your opponent, but you're covering the wound up straight away. So it's designed not to be malicious, but to be, a way to control your circle, but with good intention. So it was the most sort of like most people think of martial art, and I've done Thai boxing as well, Muay Thai. That's different. I didn't find the same, the philosophy there, but Shaolin Kung Fu has a very, almost a symbolic, everything is so symbolic and so spiritual. It's not designed to be, you're not designed to be an annihilator. You can stand your ground, and it gives you the power to take on any opposition. Size is irrelevant, and that's what took away intimidation for me. So I could walk into I used the dojo as an arena for my life. I said, if I can win in this dojo, and if I can conquer this session of training, that was my life training there. Everything else. Wow. So I got my training. My training ground was the dojo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did it help you look more inward, intrinsically motivated, and did it really shape that was a lot more important than the force or the damage? I mean, it seems like when you're talking about the wound, it's really about, really being present. Absolutely. Which is really important.
Yeah, and surprisingly, martial art takes away your ego. In fact, before I got into my dojo, there was a sign that said, leave your ego at the door. So I loved that. It was the most egoless art form, which was so powerful, yet you're literally a walking weapon. You have to sign a disclaimer to say, and I used to fight professionally. I used to, spar with the black belts when I was very early on, and I used to get into that level very quick. But one thing I learned is that you don't misuse your power. So you're a weapon, but you use it only in the right way, almost like in a noble cause. So it takes away everything you'd expect. So for example, it's not like a boxing, it's not like Conor McGregor where you just go in there and that's how you see a martial art. Oh yeah, just pure someone who's a street fighter, they just want to go crazy. That isn't what I learned. I learned that it is far more sophisticated than that. It's far superior than just a fighting machine. You are a human of the highest form. You're actually, it's a spiritual journey more than anything. And the way you deploy your power is with such finesse and such superiority in a way. And you kind of, there is such hierarchy in respecting your master. You know, if you turn up late, there's a whole process you need to go through to apologize. And, you know, you kind of can't get away with mistakes, and you have to have discipline, and everyone's equal. And I love that. It removes the ego. It gives you a power of a different form, far past the, you know, and that's why business ego, and I see past that level now. I see egos very easily because of the way I was obsessed with the philosophy behind martial arts. Chinese martial arts is a form of Buddhism anyway. So I love all religions, but I study the human behavioral psychology the most. So that really, yeah.
Now, you talked about mentorship. I think this is a very, very important point, because a lot of people equate mentorship to sometimes a dollar, amount, or, using your intuition to find that mentor is really key, because it's the end goal that you want to get. And that's why you're investing in a mentor. How important was that in the journey for you to find the right one that really got you to where you wanted to go, rather than falling into the trap of quick money and getting a mentor because maybe they need a pat on the back for ego?
Sure, that's a great question. I always had a mentor. So it started off initially with the martial art instructors. I guess before that it would be family members that you just see as superior. After that, it always became people that I aligned with on an internal basis. The thing is, I always looked at them and I thought, do I like what I see? Do they have the philosophies and the values that align with me? So if they're just wealthy and yet they're, cheating on their wife, I saw a lot of this, a lot of wealthy men having a drug habit, alcohol abuse, and lots of women outside of their marriage. And I thought, well, I know he's wealthy, but I don't think I want to learn like him. I don't want to be him. So I don't feel like I could hang around with him, because I'm very aware who you associate with. It will rub off, you can't, it's like putting a drop of ink in water and assuming that you can be away from that. It will constantly taint you. So I was very aware of the company I kept, and the mentors I find now, I have to see they've got a spiritual enlightenment, or they can stand above the crowd. So that I don't like herd mentality. One thing I won't, from my personal perspective, is I won't find a mentor that's trying to fit in, because that looks like it's a weak mentor. If they can't, a leader is someone that can make in difficult decisions, that can stand up for what they believe, and they don't really need that validation. So they're very advanced level human beings. And those are the type of mentors I've always surrounded myself with. And they're always out there. That's the thing, And now I've gone to the point where I use the late Kobe Bryant's coach as my personal mentor, Tim.
Okay.
He's amazing. Like, the guy is like I feel like I'm a female version of him, and I find that an honor. When I read his books, I laugh. I think, I've read that. That's me talking. So I sometimes, I guess, a book helps. So I actually understood about Tim. I understood who Tim was through the book. So he's not big on social. He speaks, but he's not interested in being the most famous, like Grant Cardone. Whereas Grant Cardone, I'll be honest, I respect him, but I wouldn't want to be him, and I don't want his mentorship. Like, I wouldn't choose to work with him. Just my personal choice. I feel like I've got a different journey to him. So,
yeah, and it doesn't align, right? And that's very, very important. And that's one of the things with intuition, you can feel that. So as you're talking, I can feel when you talk about Grant Cardone, because certainly he's everywhere. And so you're right. Like, it doesn't feel like that's the mentor for me, which is very much like you. And intuition, sort of that, it's at that base level. Does it feel right? And so when you talk about something, either it's positive or negative, for me, it's black or white, right? So
absolutely. And another thing about Tim is how he got deployed by the best people. We've all heard of Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan paid Tim not to coach anyone else. Like, that's the kind of coach you want, right? So you want someone to be that exclusive, that is not diluted. He's not mentoring the rest of the NBA. He was just mentoring that one guy because he knew how powerful he is. You want almost that hidden gem that no one knows about sometimes. So it's a fine tune to like being an influencer and still finding a unique mentor. So I get it. Whereas Grant, I've met him many times and I think he's a great guy, like I said, but his mission is He wants to be the biggest known, well, like the McDonald's of the industry, which is fine. He's getting to the point where people know him in that way. But is he going to add value for me? No. Is he going to add value for a beginner? Yes. You know, so someone who needs that push, and that he's a great influencer for that. But for me, I've gone so far past that level. I need something far more finite.
Right.
You know? So,
absolutely different stage. For sure. Now you entered the trading area, and you had some mentors that you used, or a mentor, and then you lost $200,000 in 2 days by quote unquote gambling. Yeah. What lessons did you learn from that? Did you ignore your intuition? Specifically, why? And what did you do to make sure that that didn't happen again?
So really, really interesting part of my life, that I was 25 or 20, yeah, 25-ish. And I just made a lot of money. I was new money. So I was new money in property. And even though I was still in the financial, I'd never done trading, but I had an ego. So this is the thing, our ego can creep into us. So one thing my intuition guided me to a point. You see, I got successful by not having to be that incredible as a human being. Property is actually easy to make money. That's why another reason with Grant Cardone, I think, hey, property is easy, you know, it's not that difficult. But if he was a trader, I don't think he'd be the way he was, because it's a very different, and if he was a good trader, like, you have to be a different human being. So I used the same skill set of confidence in property, and thought, just because I'm wealthy, I can walk into this industry and be wealthy again. And it was pure ego. It was pure overconfidence, thinking, well, I'm wealthy, I know what I'm doing. You don't. And also I ignored, and we all do this, and that's why we need a little feedback constantly, that we need a mentor. I didn't have a mentor. I thought I can just learn off the free stuff. Well, actually, I had a friend who was getting into it, my mortgage broker, and he was kind of my very indirect mentor, but he told me, I mean, he wasn't wealthier than me. I should have just listened to my intuition at the time, that he isn't wealthier, so how can he know more? But I just tried it. You know, it's very easy to get sucked up in the get rich quick. It's our brain is wired to think get rich quick. And I got sucked into the autopilot of our neuroscience, which is instant validation, you know, whereas you can't do that in property. The property thing tames you. You can't just make, you know, 30 grand in one day. In property, you have to buy the house first, blah, 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 you know, and that slows you down. So it tames your neuroscience. With Forex and any financial market, it's just wire the money in and you're off. Like within 1 second, as soon as that money's in there, is you and that laptop or computer, and nothing in between. No legal, no conveyancing going on between you. So that was just a raw example of autopilot neuroscience gone wrong, and the ego just allowing it. So I felt it was the best lesson when I lost it. I felt like someone had died, actually, because it was so bad. I was, again, so attached to the whole process. And but I always that was what forced me to have a step back and think, well, I'm back to basics, as in, you know, I clearly don't know what I'm doing. So how did it feel once upon a time when I knew nothing about property? How did I get good at that? So that's what made me revisit that phase in my life of, how did you get good at the last thing? And it was, I needed a mentor. So I'm grateful for it now, because I wouldn't be here without the discipline. Something has to teach you. Life will always teach you a lesson, whether you like it or not. And you will consistently repeat that lesson until you learn. So I learned straight away. That was a good thing. With me, I make mistakes, big mistakes, once. That's one thing I learned from martial arts, because we all make mistakes. We're all humans. We're not perfect. We can't always get it right. But when you make a mistake, in martial arts, you've got your guard down, and someone, you know, you get a right kick to the face or something, it hurts, you know, and you're like, oh, damn, like I should, but you get your guard up. It teaches you, well, that was your fault. You put your guard down. So that's what I love about life. It's just feedback and keep your guard up.
Did you ever have, now in your trading, where your intuition was saying something is up and you shouldn't get into a stock, or you should get into a stock? Do you have a couple of examples?
What, after that 200K loss, or before?
After, or even before. It's up to you, whichever one.
Now it is, no, because I'm trading FX. Oh, now I'm so regimented. Like gosh, the journey's been a long way, what I had to do is, I have learned to detach from money. So the biggest spiritual journey is actually becoming a trader. If you do it well, you have to learn to master your ego and your emotions, and you have to learn to detach from money, i.e. money doesn't make you, and you don't get excited about the numbers, you just are in control of them. And now I never get enticed by anything. Like it's like a game of chess for me now. So I'm very hands off, like I can see it, and I take high probability trades. We are forever humbled by the trading charts because we don't control the markets, we don't control the news, we don't control the market sentiment, i.e. we can think, oh yeah, this has happened, Brexit's happened, or Donald Trump said this, oh, that should make the dollar do this. No, we actually have no control over that. It doesn't happen the way you think. So over the years, I've learned that the best approach is remove the ego and constantly remember you're not in control. We're taking high probability trades. So we have to be almost like a mathematician and just say, well, this is the risk. The only thing we can control is the amount of risk. Am I able and prepared to take the hit if it goes wrong? When the answer is yes, then you're ready to trade. Then everything that comes from it is a bonus. So I focus on risk. The bonuses come anyway. So that's like the profits, the money. That bit I'm unattached to, and I just that bit's the easy bit, really. So it doesn't suck me up anymore.
That's excellent. Now we talked about sort of the women empowerment, and really making sure that you're a shining example of women in general. You mentioned that in 2012 you started speaking to another successful woman, and she started to talk about how to dress, and it really put you off in that the conversations. And I agree. I mean, the conversations that we should be having should be meaningful. It should be deeper, much deeper than that. But why do you think that people gravitate to, and I don't want to just label women as that. I think there are people in general that just gravitate to just that type of meandering talk that's just not really fulfilling, and it's just a time waster.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, so 2012, just to add a bit of context to your question, which is really, really good. I went to this big event, and there were all these superstar speakers, the big roadshow of, wow, this guy's going to talk about amazing stuff in proxy. This guy's about online business. This guy's about Forex. And then I was so looking forward to the female. And as you said, she came on, and I had no idea what she was going to talk about. And then her topic was how to dress for, any kind of situation. And I thought, wow, is that a representation? I thought, obviously that is not a true reflection of females. But then why that happens, really good point. Now I've learned a lot from Clubhouse, actually, why this happens. There's a few reasons. Number one, the promoters are male. They actually, and I've spoken to the main promoter that is the one behind this. And he actually, before he came across people like me, of course, he thinks women are not comfortable selling products from stage, i.e. they don't have a good relationship with sales, and they feel a bit cringy about selling things off stage. Secondly, he thinks that women don't buy from women. Again, correct because of the cultural issue, but not so correct as we're changing that. Because I've seen a shift from 20% females to now 60% females, or at least 50, now in a 4-year period when I've become 6-year period when I've been a speaker. And I've seen the women come in because they got comfortable seeing me being comfortable on stage and talking about money, and they were like, oh, actually, we do take it seriously. So a lot of it is the promoters behind these events are not willing to change. They just want the quick money. So they want to go with the easiest solution. Yeah, men can sell, great. Women, they sometimes don't believe women can make money as fast as men. And then the third reason is women don't like and don't have a natural inclination for validation like men do. Because when you're on stage, and again, Clubhouse is a great teaching point for me on this. When you are in a big panel of speakers, most of the men will have this testosterone-fueled, let's compete and talk about ourselves and, who's better than each other, who's got more money, who's done more stuff. And they will lie about a lot of it, but they do that just to feel great. Women, we don't have that urge to really prove men wrong or prove anyone wrong. We're quite content because we are more aligned. We tend to feel like, I'm happy easier. They're happy quicker. They're more content quicker. So they feel like they've got less to prove, less to validate from, and they shy away very often from a big stage where it's male ego. because they don't really see the point of why should we go through this drama when we can just happily live our lives and we can do our thing in private. So I feel like women, and that's why I actively became a speaker, because I understand it from a female point of view. Like, I never wanted to be a speaker. I'm quite happy living my life, making money. I was, I'm doing better than most men, but I didn't compare myself. I just was happy. But the comparison game is a bit toxic. And sometimes I need to like check in with myself and think, oh God, do you really enjoy this environment? And the truth is I don't, but I became a female solo leader. So now what I do is I don't mix with the guys. I eclipse them in my own way. So I don't plan to compete. And Marilyn Monroe said this in a very good statement. To try and be an equal to a male is lacking imagination. So wow. I like that, and coming from someone like her, which you would never, see as but she had a great statement, and I love that. So now when I think of competing with men, I will rather find a way that will end up me higher up. So doing my thing in a different way, and rather than going down the same path, which is full of battle scars and dumb arguments, I will go a way that will eclipse them, and I will get there and see you at the top type of thing. And when they'll be further back, and they'll it's almost like women have to achieve more before they're recognized because of that. Because men don't take women seriously until they have that same level of validation or more.
And one of the things and just to sort of a great segue to my next question is and also my experience with you on Clubhouse when you and George were talking. One of the things that you mentioned to George when you met him was that he was sort of in a particular space in the fitness area, and you're having, I think, lunch with him, and you just kind of said, "Are you going to continue to do that?" So you weren't really afraid to really kind of have those tough conversations, because ultimately you get tired of people around you who are just doing something else that kind of fake, plastic, or don't add value. How sharp is your intuition when it comes to filtering those people around you so that you really only keep those that are going to be really kind of support you? And they're not yes people. These are people that are going to give you some really good constructive criticism, but you know that they've got your back 100% of the time.
Wow. I would say better than I've ever been in my life now, because I've learned to not speak and listen. So it's what someone says, if I'm the only person speaking, obviously this is a different scenario, but in a room very often, I actually learned this from The Godfather. It's one of my favorite movies. The Godfather says, there's a few things in The Godfather that I've learned, that we have 2 ears for a reason, 1 mouth, right? So we have to listen twice as hard and speak less. And it's what people don't say that matters more. I always read between the lines, and I watch how people conduct themselves in a business scenario. So when I actually give people trust in a personal and a business scenario, I'm always watching and listening first before, talking. I try not to be the person that talks the most in a room, because again, it's counterintuitive to me. I can't understand the human beings in front of me if I keep talking, because they're just reacting to me. I want to learn about them. So I let them talk and I listen. And again, I go with my intuition. I look at the energy. I look at how, if someone says, we're going to do something, and simple things like, do they do it? Are they on time? Are they, X, Y, Z? Like things like that matter to me. In terms of how good, it's a very tight-knit circle, and it's a little bit disappointing initially knowing that there are so few people that you can actually trust. In business, 100%, I've learned actually to be very unconditional. So now what I have done is I don't get upset anymore when someone lets you down. I learned this, I guess, from Jesus in Nazareth, that movie, and even from the Bible, with Judas, he said, you need to forgive them for they know not what they do. And sometimes when someone lets you down in a trust form, it's because they're sucked up in their ego, or they need that instant validation, or they just wanted that one thing from you that made them feel good, and it's a void in them that made them so weak. So I actually see it from a very high perspective now. When someone lets me down or something happened, I don't take it personally, because anger is like holding onto a hot coal. The only person who gets hurt is you. So I very much just keep a higher vantage point, try and keep a very high level spiritual, intuitive angle. And that means why is this person upset? Or why have they stepped away? Or why have they left? Or why have they let me down? And I actually feel like, oh, I hope they find out what they want in life. And so I actually see it from a human perspective, like, we're bigger than this. Human beings are on a journey that's way bigger. Whereas when we get sucked up into this man-made saga of we think we're the be-all and end-all, that's when we get offended. That's when things let us down. But when you come in from, again, I think Chinese martial arts must have sparked this in my obsession with spirituality. When you come in from a forgiving, unconditional point of view, you realize that everyone is on their journey and not everyone's going to be on the same playing field. And when they are, they're incredibly powerful, if they are. And yeah, those people you nurture and they will grow with you, but we're always growing. So we can't expect someone to stay static. That's naive. That everyone's we're all just sharing a bit of our pathway together, and then we'll deviate somewhere. Sometimes you just have to give them unconditional love and say, good luck in your path. They don't have to stay with you. We're not designed just to be together all the time. We're designed to add, if we are giving each other what we need in our lives, they will stay there. Until that point, they won't, so up to that point, they won't. So, yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with people leaving, and I just don't take offense anymore. I just see through it now. So that's how I do it.
I've also heard on other podcasts, interviews, that you turn away a lot of people for your program because they have to be kind of in the right mental space. They got to check the ego at the door, learn your systems, and really you have to align with them that they're going to be a great student. Yes. And not create problems in the program. How much of this, I don't know if you ever look back to say that this was a cathartic transformation, not just in the systems, but it transformed somebody in the way he or she thought, operated, and changed their life. Even though you're teaching them a system, you kind of taught them a bit of a way of life. Is there any student that touches that, or do all of them go through that?
You know what? It's true. All of them do. I wanted to be a life coach at the very beginning of my journey. I thought this is the most powerful thing. But then I had that nagging thought about money. And I thought, well, you know what? I wouldn't be here if money wasn't in my life. I wouldn't feel free. So I wanted to combine the two. I said, well, I'm going to teach them how to make money so that they have the freedom mentally to do what they want. So I teach both. So yeah, 100%. Everyone who comes through this journey of wealth creation, they have to go through the same journey of spiritual awakening, effectively, that they can't be attached to money. You can ask any single one of my mentees that, yeah, this journey is way bigger than money. Like, they will 100% say that. So all of them touch that story. And the ones who are the most successful have done that work more than the rest. But I actually guide with that. They know that my slogan is mindset before money. And they know that in trading is 85% mindset. So and in business as well. And we had a 5-day retreat in Monte Carlo just a few weeks ago. And all of that was mindset. And these are people who are making millions every year. And some of them lose a portion of that wealth before they came to see me. But now they're on a growth curve where they will never see that toxic behavior again, because we worked on the mindset. We worked on the subconscious. We worked on all the areas that they overlook because they think money will somehow cover patch it up. So when they detach from money as well, and make them understand the detachment. And it's all a spiritual awakening what we do. And it's so powerful. And they leave in a higher inspired state. And that's when you get real transformation,
Right.
When you can see, then anything you touch turns to gold. I've always said it to my students that making money is an easy bit, is your mindset around life. That isn't. Let's fix that first, then we can take over the world. Then you can do whatever you want, you just need to learn how to keep reprogramming the financial thermostat. If you want 100 million, right, this is what we got to do. If you want a billion, this is what we got to do. Hence I got the billionaire project, because 10 people want to hit the big money. So let's do it, so I don't mind how far people want to go, but they know the journey mentally first.
Excellent. And very last question, we're coming up on our time here. I often use a statistic that I've gathered from Gallup and from Harvard. And so if you have a room full of 25,000 people that are actually saying that they're going to put their hand up saying, I'm going to make a change in my life, whether it's a course, hire a mentor, whatever it is, the number of people who actually make that change is 1 in 25,000. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, I want to know what happens after they put the hand up. Because do they get a mentor or do they just go solo?
they go back to just saying, I'm going to try. Some of them may sign up for a course and they don't do anything. They go spend a couple of minutes and then that's it. They don't do anything, or they sign up, they never finish. So those are some of the statistics that I've looked at where, yes, I'm engaged, and I've been to speaking events where people have heard me speak about intuition with somebody else speaking about mindset, and everybody in that room is all about mindset and spirituality and all that. And the one question I used to ask was this: how many people are going to make a change tomorrow? Because tomorrow is about making action. As soon as you walk out that door, everyone here is engaged. They're going to take action, going to improve their lives. And everybody in that room is with their hand up. And what happens is they leave that door and no action is taken. And for those who are going to follow up, some people figure out what the business model is. The other speaker was saying, she got some weird questions, nothing about improving their lives. It's just about what marketing program did they use? How did she become a speaker? And so these were just, I can't believe, like, these are the questions that we're trying to get from people who are we're already talking in a sort of mindset meditative type of conference, and we lead with action. Everybody say yes, rah rah, sis boom ba, and then nothing happens. And it's just, there's a level of frustration that could happen to me. I mean, everybody's got their journey, but it just boggles my mind that people can't follow through on that. Can you imagine? And I always say that when you don't, making a bad decision, it's 2 times the cost. It's called opportunity cost. It's the cost of not doing this decision. It's plus making the bad decision. It's also the cost of not making the right decision. It's actually twice the cost. And people are sacrificing that every day, every minute, every year by just falling into bad habits. And so I go to people like you who are changing themselves and others to say, why do people act like that?
Because it's the easiest thing in the world to do nothing. It's the easiest thing in the world to be poor. And our brain is designed to be poor and safe. So trying to be successful is almost like the person on stage has been misinforming them to a point of what it takes. Because if you came to one of my events, I would effectively, I attract Black Ops pilots, I attract fighter jet pilots, like ex-fighter jet pilots come to me now. They're my students because they say I am like their military leader. So I don't make it easy, I don't. That's the difference between a lot of speakers. They kind of, everyone likes motivation. We all get inspired and we get that momentarily a high, of yeah, this is feeling great, and that's great. It's nice. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I am saying that if they are serious about, let's say if someone said, do you want to be a millionaire? Let's do it. We can do it now. There is a bit of a responsibility by the speaker to tell them the expectations. And even if someone's heard it, remember, herd mentality is real. So even if someone's heard the expectation that everyone's asked a question, put your hand up if you want it, nobody is going to not put their hand up. So that's the first thing we need to realize, that they would feel like an idiot and judged instantly if they didn't put their hand up. So most of those hands don't mean a thing. Secondly, the misinformation of what it takes. The reality is, when you step out that door, you're back into your autopilot phase. We don't know what their relationships are like at home. If you've got a toxic relationship, 90% of your success comes from your partner, your life partner. If you've got one that holds you back or tells you everything is a sham and you should just stick to what you know, the 9 to 5, that's going to be a big issue. So we've got problems on a subconscious level. You don't know the parenting they've gone through. So I start with the subconscious. If someone wants real transformation, I make them do the work, which is, let's look at your subconscious first. Let's see how you've programmed. How are you programmed? What's your parenting like? What's your relationship with money like? That's the second area. Then we look at the neuroscience of goal setting. There is a whole neuroscience behind actually setting a goal and getting it done. We have to put anchors in place. We need to put some serious neuroscience at play. Then we look at toxic relationships. Most people are scared to deal with the uncomfortable stuff, and maybe they've got grievance, they've got money loss that scarred them. Post-traumatic stress disorder is real. I have quantum physics techniques that get rid of that. So we just, we neutralize all of that heavy emotion. I do it to myself all the time. If I feel any heavy charge around a topic, I do it all the time. It works. It works like magic. Then we look at your people are scared of making money because they're scared of people taking it, others, predators. So I actually show them how it's easy to protect your money so that you don't ever have to worry about someone taking it. Because actually, that old saying of more money, more problems is true. If you have all of the things in your name, and I personally don't, I learned the hard way, and people used to say, oh, that's a sham. If you don't have anything on your name, that means you don't have anything. No, wealthy people don't do that. Wealthy people have everything protected legally in a trust or something that's not in their name, so that if I got divorced, someone tried to sue me, whatever, jealous people are out there or predators are out there. You don't want to lose that money. And when you wake up with that kind of confidence that all my hard work is protected, you're going to move forward naturally. Otherwise, somebody else is like, okay, now I'm worth X amount of millions. I'm scared of doing more because I've already lost all my friends. I've already had this guy try and sue me and failed, and I spent this many on legal fees trying to protect myself. I don't like this game. I want to just play it safe. My life was easy once upon a time when I was just, earning $2,000 a month. So our life does change when you make money, and it's naive to think it's easy. It's actually, you have to become a soldier. You need to learn how to protect your assets. I teach that. And then the sixth area is peak performance. We are consistently a product of our environment in our mental, spiritual, and our physical. So what we eat and consume and our energy levels. So unless that's all done to a high level, you have to be like an athlete, a business person. And I love Tim for teaching me this, that his athletes he dealt with have the same kind of thinking as a high level business person. Like the kind of finesse behind your mental mind frame is the same as a top level athlete of any type, the highest paid athlete in any industry. You are the same human being inside. So you've got to treat yourself with the same kind of discipline. Like you look at, if you want to study greatness, it's so easy for us to study the greatest sports people ever. There are books written about them, movies written about, directed about them. Watch them, learn. And that parallel will show you exactly what it takes to make it in life if you want to make money. So I think it's actually normal for people to not make it. And it just is, it's never going to change, because unfortunately, it's where if we all were living in a communist world, or let's say the money was divided equally amongst every single human being, it will still migrate in a small period of time to the people who have got it at the top. Because money is a reflection of the energy, the kind of work and the value, and only a few people have got what it takes to be wealthy. And unfortunately, I don't see that changing, and I just think that, yeah, there'll be, the good news is people die and life keeps changing, so we can still keep filling the numbers. But it's naive for people to think that they can hit billions plus by just being average. It's very naive. And average is, becoming above average is very uncomfortable. So I actually put people off more than anything. And I find one little test I do, last thing I'll say, is I always ask someone, before I really understand if they've got what it takes, I will ask them, what's the hardest thing you think you've gone through? And they tell me some stories, and the more dramatic it is, I will think, okay, this guy or female has come back from what was quite traumatic. That's great. That's when I take them seriously, is if they've had some sort of trauma that they've overcome. If they've had trauma, but they've got post-traumatic stress disorder, then I have a different issue to deal with first. So I actually like people that have gone through hell and back. They're more designed to make it, all they've done. If you've just had it easy all your life, if you're an A-grade student and you just never failed, I'm worried for you, because your first failure is going to destroy you. So I actually qualify my my staff and my mentees that way. If they want to join my top level billionaire project, or the millionaire mindset program, or even the top level trading programs, they've all been asked that question: what's the hardest thing you've done? And from that, I can gauge whether I want to take them on, because that's character building.
And there's a parallel, but when I used to do these interviews, one of the first questions I used to ask is, when did intuition impact your life? And 100% of the time, it was when they hit rock bottom. So I even had someone say I was sexually assaulted. I had a knife to my neck. I tried to cut myself. I became homeless. I got hit by a car. It was until those intuitive moments, as I call it, that they started to respect the signals that intuition was telling them. And then that got them into a level of success internally, intrinsic, not necessarily extrinsic, that got them to really start appreciating life because of intuition. So 100% resonate with exactly what you're doing with your programs. Hither, thank you so much for your time. This is an amazing interview, and thank you so much for doing this. How do people get a hold of you?
I love people that follow me on Instagram. I feel like I can engage the most because of the story functionality, and I just love that. I have a lot more fun on Instagram. So at Hither Mann, I have got a blue tick so they can find me. There are about 1 million fake profiles of me, so please don't. So
Okay.
don't follow them. So yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you.